Here we have Nick Langley, co-founder of ClearBridge Investments. Nick, thanks for speaking at the Inside Network's Equities and Growth Assets Symposium.
My pleasure.
The tagline of the event is Sailing Through the Headwinds. In your opinion, how should advisors try to achieve this?
Yeah, so I think now's a time when advisors need to start thinking a little more broadly and get information from a range of different sources. So, part of this is education. I think part of what's going on in markets, and I expect it to continue over time, is some of those narratives that are kind of left field, right field, are actually starting to, or right tail, starting to make their way in to be narrative du jour, and that's causing markets to reprice. And so, a lot of the things that I was talking about, I expect to occur kind of slowly, and then all of a sudden. And I think advisors need to, talk to people around them, talk to their managers and so on about the things that are keeping them up at night.
And part of your thesis is that we really might think about structural change across society and therefore capital markets, rather as not a temporary headwind, but something that's going to last. Yes.
So our view is things like demographic change, the tech revolution and AI, together with energy transition, are all very significant secular trends, which are hitting us all at the same time and going to result in quite a difficult decision by governments to prioritise spending, which is going to ultimately result in pretty significant changes to some of the macro variables, growth, inflation, bond yields, which has a flow through to cost of capital and the way people should be allocating for their portfolios.
And how do the different generations working, saving and investing influence the world we are living through and the economy we are building?
So the boomer generation, obviously very large, just retired. That means that they move from kind of a heavy saving period, a lot of which went into fixed income products, into more of a drawdown. Now they're being replaced in that kind of savings context with Gen X. Gen X is a much smaller generation as a whole, and they started having kids and so on later. I'm talking generally here, and that means that they're saving a whole lot less than the boomers who are going out. Now that means that there's going to be competition for capital, and that cost of capital is going to go up. The other thing that's occurring is the boomers are being replaced in the workforce by Gen Z, again a much smaller generation, and so we're going to have a net shortage or net exit of workers from the workforce around developed countries in particular. Over the next decade. That's going to create competition for workers. That'll put upwards pressure on wages. And so we're going to see some quite significant changes just through that demographic impact over the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah. Speaking of significant impacts there, the transition to a renewable energy grid is a seismic change. What are some of the impacts that will have on our world?
So the cost in the renewables is all up front. Cost is all about building the plant. And then once you've got your wind farm or your solar farm built, the wind and the solar, the sunshine is actually free. So they cost very little to run, a little bit of maintenance, but they cost a lot to build up front. And so, we are transitioning from coal and gas, which is a mixture between, kind of upfront and ongoing fuel costs, to something that's very capital intensive at a time when capital is becoming more scarce and more expensive, and that's going to require governments to make some difficult decisions about what spending gets prioritised. Even if you put that through the private sector, that's going to result in quite a significant increase in household utility bills, and so that's going to really continue the cost of living crisis and that squeeze that we see on households at the moment.
And just finally, do you expect any big surprises across markets in 2024?
Listen, I think 2024 will likely be the year of geopolitics. I think that's where the kind of the surprise will come from for markets. When you think around the world economically, there's a lot of fiscal spending going on, which makes sense. We're in an election year for some key economies around the globe. We've got central banks with some, with some firepower up their sleeve as inflation is coming down. So I think from that perspective, there's going to be no great surprises. It's the geopolitics that might come out of left field and bite us.
Indeed. Nick Langley, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.